Conversations this morning. 22422 is the SMS line and the hashtag is Daybreak. Let me introduce my guest once again. Joining us in studio, Dr. Alfred Mutua, the Governor of Machakos County. Welcome to the program. We also have the Senator of Kiambu County, Kimani Wamatangi. Asante sana for finding time this morning. We are joined by Honorable Robert Mbui, MP Kadhiani, Karibu, and Dunstan Omari, an advocate of the High Court. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got a lot to talk about. Let me start with a discussion on the war on corruption. It's one we have here a couple of times. And yesterday, the court seemed to have asserted themselves quite a bit in terms of some of the judgments that were read yesterday, touching on high-profile Kenyans. We have a former Sports Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Hassan Wario, of the Milimani Law Courts in Nairobi yesterday, found guilty of abuse of office. We've also got former Kemri boss, David Koech at the Milimani Law Courts in Nairobi yesterday. He faces 6 years behind bars if he doesn't pay a 19.6 million Kenya shillings fine. I think on this one, let me start with the advocate here in studio. We've got Dunstan Omari. First conviction involving a former cabinet secretary, I believe. At least that's what is being discussed out there. Where are we in this war against corruption? Are these the right steps?
Well, there are two ways to look at what happened yesterday. One, the courts are growing stronger, firm, and very independent in making decisions on corruption. The question is the sustainability of that conviction, because there are three more layers remaining. There is the High Court, there is the Court of Appeal, and there is the Supreme Court. So that is what the defense team, I'm sure, never slept yesterday. They are working on their own ways out. But one, the conviction comes when the DPP almost was surrendering. We've seen the DPP recently saying that we do not need really to have a prolonged trial process in court. Because when you see the conviction, it has taken a lot of time. A lot of time of judicial time, a lot of defense team time, the public's money that has been sunk there. So, if the bill that is being fronted by the DPP to go to Parliament to amend sections of the Anti-Corruption Act, because the question is, David Koech was convicted and was told pay 19-point-something million shillings. What was the problem to take if they had agreed with David Koech that you pay these 19 million shillings from when the matter started? It has costed almost 50 million shillings to take this trial to the end. So I totally...
Everyone was involved.
Yes,
in the whole process.
Everybody. It is almost 50 million shillings from the defense team, the courts, the prosecutors, the police, the investigators, very many issues. So I totally agree with the Director of Public Prosecution on this matter that corruption, most of these cases should be dealt under that regime. The plea bargaining agreement under the Act as it is not an incentive to anybody to surrender the property, because you still are, the court can still refuse even after you have plea bargained. You pay the money, the court can still sentence you.
Okay.
So the gaps in the Anti-Corruption Act that is being addressed is fine. Two, we are encouraging the judiciary to be very firm, to arrive at decisions, the decisions that are based on law. If they are thieves, they should be convicted.
Okay.
But for us as advocates, because we are never in the payroll of government, our role is to give the state the hardest time possible to convict our clients.
Okay.
And we do that because that is our nature of the job.
You wake up early to do that. Dr. Alfred Mutua, we have seen fingers pointed at the judiciary that they are the weak link in the war against corruption. When you see headlines like this morning, does that give you an indication that the judiciary is finding the teeth to bite? What sense do you get?
You know, it is, first of all, I want to say jumbo to our viewers from all over the world and say it's a great morning. As I usually say, when you wake up in the morning, open one eye and you don't smell flowers, it is good. Because there are many people struggling to remain alive. So, Jambo, and thank you for joining us this morning. It is a great day when you can be able to fight corruption and fight it well. Well, I don't think it's about the judicial the judiciary. This is the entire legal system, from the investigation all the way to imprisonment. Now, let us not get ahead of ourselves and start getting excited. I agree totally with Wakili Dustin Omari about the process that has gone on and things that need to be done, because the problem we have in this country is not that people are not corrupt. It's not that the law is not there to convict them. It's a process. We lose this war through process. And I have advocated in the position that we took to during the BBI of Manileo Chap that from the time you're handcuffed to the time you're sent to jail or the ruling is given should not be more than 6 months. I mean, it's a funny system that we have in this country, that cases can last forever. Let me give you a case in point. You remember the issue of Chicken Gate, for example. You know, in Chicken Gate, the people who were involved in the bribing and in those illegal giving money to IBC officials and everything were arrested, tried, convicted, they paid fine, they served 4 years jail term and were released. The case in Kenya is not yet complete. So that is why people feel like you can get into public office and squander, because after all you lose the money. Now when it comes to issues of plea bargain, that has been trained, I'm a big advocate of plea bargaining. But I think that when it comes to cases of corruption, plea bargaining should not just be paying back the money you've stolen. Because if you stole, let's say, 20 million, and you've been able to grow that money to 100 million, being told to pay 20 or 30 or 40 million doesn't help. It should be plea bargain whereby you pay back money, but you also serve some time. Wacha ukakule waru, wacha ukakule mbosho, pale jail. Let people know that you pay for what you've done. Plus, there should be an aspect that when you are found to be corrupt and convicted thereof, there should be a direct order for freezing of your assets or taking back of your assets that you've acquired through process of corruption. But the thing that will enable us to sort out corruption is this issue of 6 months. There are many accusations of people. Today somebody can stand up and say that Wakili Omari is corrupt, or can say that Honorable Mbu is corrupt, or Matangi here has stolen, or Mutua has stolen, and Mutua is innocent. But they cry out there, Mutua is, you know. Let Mutua go to court, but let the case finish quickly so that Mutua can continue with his life as an innocent person. But you can be accused of being corrupt and you're innocent, but the case lasts for 6 years, 7 years. You've actually been convicted.
In the court of public opinion.
And also your life has actually been turned upside down. But I want to congratulate the courts for the step that was taken, and I hope that when the ruling is given, it's given in a way that will make Kenyans feel like, yes, at last, we're getting this is done. Okay. But I call upon Honorable Chief Justice, Mother Koome. I don't know, Wakili, you can advise us here. They're what you call, they're not rules. Are they rules that you can set up? Chief Justice rules. Yeah, Chief Justice rules, whereby she can actually come up with rules that actually indicate that when a case starts, it needs to finish by this time. And these are the rules. So that within 6 months, you are arrested today, by February, uko kamiti, ama umeenda nyumbani, uko sawa. Not lasting forever, and you don't even have to go to parliament. These are things, it takes the will to actually fight corruption.
Okay, Advocate, I'll give you a chance to weigh in on that. Honorable Mbui, I'm coming to you. But Senator Matangi, we've been told, not just by the former Auditor General, I also believe a report by the US government indicated that we lose almost a third of our budget to corruption.
Yeah.
Some say, okay, good headlines this morning, but it's not enough. There's a lot more that needs to be done. What's your view?
I would agree, Wahiga, and good morning to you.
Good morning.
And good morning to our viewers and our co-panelists here. And my running mate here. You know, Wahiga, what you said is very true. Really true, because I would call it what we've seen today probably a first step in that journey of 1,000 miles, as it is called, or a stone thrown into an ocean of you know, undescribable attitude that we have. Because you know, Wahiga, maybe one day I would wish you got a chance to serve in public service. Then you'd get a good feel of what I'm about to say. Because, you know, there are systems in public...
Dunstan will do a better job than me.
There are systems in public service, Wahiga, that makes it almost normal for people to misappropriate funds. And what you're seeing here, and I think this had better be known to members of the public, really is nothing. the amounts of money.
Give us an example.
The amounts of money, and I'm going there because you cited, for example, the report by the Auditor General.
The former Auditor General, yes.
Yes, and if you ask me to give you, I would give you 1,000 examples, but let me just give you one.
Yes.
In the year 2013, that's when Governor Mutua was elected. They served in that devolution session until 2017. When we closed that session, pending bills, for just one example, in county governments, I can use Nairobi county government as an example. The pending bills then were about 40-something billion when we closed in 2017. 1 year, when we went to the election, coming back when the Auditor General looked at their pending bills, it was 100 billion plus.
47 billion, you said 40?
Yes.
To 100 billion.
To 100 billion when we came back after the elections. And you ask yourself, what is the magic that has happened here? When you see our people lining up in county government headquarters, in courts, in small meetings, they are crying how they have supplied things. I mean, corruption in this system is just simply endemic. I can give you another example. Out of that 47 billion, what happens during an election year is that people are called. Actually, we get phone calls. Come, we are going to give you an LPO for 200 million, for 300 million. Just come with 10%. Come with 10%. So you find, anyway, I'm just simply saying that we have a system and a half.
I feel like keep talking, keep sharing, keep sharing.
If you go to any public office, the way AIE is allocated, the way it is accounted for, the way people are held to account is unbelievable. Like what you see now, what you having been accused of, and I mean, it's happened. But this happens in every public office, and especially where travel is concerned. You find that if you're told, send this team to this delegation to go and do something, attend a certain meeting, that's an open ticket. Invite everybody else you want, ask for more budget, and it is available. And you come there, you will see. It is a big story. But let me just make my point so that I close it very quickly. I think for us to succeed on the war on corruption, and I want to congratulate the judiciary. Probably as Wakili Omari is making his second contribution, he will tell us, because I listened to the magistrate making her pronouncement, and she used a word that I got curious about, because she said there was wastage of funds. And that got me a bit curious, because on the pronouncement of that there was wastage of funds in sentencing, but rather in finding him guilty, I was asking myself, then what weight does that carry as opposed to that there was misappropriation or there was theft of funds? Because wastage is a very generalized term, and I was curious that if you move to the next level, as Wakili was saying, of arbitration or the league, whatever, to the higher courts, then you are arguing a case whereby you've been accused of wasting funds. There's a lot of leeway, and probably that's why you find, probably like in this case of Dr. David Koech, that misappropriation and loss of funds, because funds were lost, could still end up giving you another leeway where you can sit waiting to pay a fine for many years. So anyway, we are a long way to go. It's 1,000 miles yet to the destination, and I think the rethink should be one: how do we tighten policy when it comes to allocation and accountability of funds? Because if we are waiting just at the end of the tunnel to get the thieves and send them to jail, yet the system is so porous, it is so fluid, that money can just be gotten. Public officers, or if you become a public officer, getting money to your office is not a big deal. You just need to write, and once you write, you have a few lobbyists, and then you get money sent to you as AIA, and you can spend it the way you like. Accountability will come as long as you have receipts and papers.
That's all you need to do. Hang on, you've opened up so much that I need to get reaction. Honorable Mbui, let me come to you. one thing we've been told in the run-up to an election, a lot happens. Opportunities for people to make money. Is that something you've witnessed? But also he said we need to look at prevention more than cure in the war on corruption. What are your thoughts on this morning?
Yeah, thank you. I think he's right when he talks about the issue of prevention, because we need to come up with a situation where people are scared of stealing public funds. In this country, there are so many millionaires, in fact, multi-billionaires, out of corrupt funds, and Kenyans know them. And you see, it's very easy to tell. A lot of people get into public office within a short period, a year, 2 years. Their lives have changed. So clearly, the fact is that Kenyans are stealing. We know the thieves. But the problem is, first, the length of time that these court cases take. I mean, look at this case. This is a case of 2016. And this is a time now we are getting a judgment. That is quite a long period. And from 2016, the headlines and all news channels ran this story. So everybody knows about it. So it takes too long to deal with these cases. I think that maybe we need to become a bit more punitive. There are some countries where corruption is rewarded with the death penalty. I mean, maybe I'm not an advocate of the death penalty, but I think we need to look at how severe can the punishment for corruption be. I serve in the National Assembly. One of my colleagues was convicted, sent to jail for many years, but he's still making law for Kenyans. I mean, it's a tragedy. And the reality is that it's something that has defeated almost everyone. His Excellency, the President, came to the National Assembly once, and he mentioned some of his cabinet secretaries that he felt were named actually by, at that time, I think by the Auditor General. And we gave him a standing ovation of 5 minutes. I mean, we were so happy that finally something is happening. Finally, people are going to be, they'll be chopped. But within no time, it's like, I don't know whether, they say corruption fights back. But I think corruption buys back justice. Because there's a lot of money already stolen. The money is with the people who are corrupt. And the system, even the judiciary system, is also corrupted in one way or the other. So it's a difficult battle. I don't think anyone can really give us a solution to that. If there's one thing that I've thought through, because every time, I think almost every time we come into the studio, that's one of the questions that gets asked. And I don't think we have an answer to the issue of corruption. You go to the city...
There is no economic model that will tackle corruption.
No, I don't think there's
not really even the Wiper one.
No, what we'll do, for us as Wiper, what we are saying is that sometimes there's always the idea of having a leader that sets an example. We as Wiper have a leader that has been humble and has gone through the ranks. And clearly, he's actually the only leader right now who's never been tainted, because the only case people talked about was a piece of land in Yatta at his home. And when he went to DCI, they said they've checked through the records. This was land that he acquired by purchasing from the previous owner.
They're saying he's the first leader to get a clearance certificate from...
I think so, yes.
That's how useful.
Oh, yes, he is. And there's only been one issue. I mean, some of the leaders in office now, there's hundreds of cases. People are running from one court to the other. And some of them maybe have not been reached, but in due time, they'll be reached. Because I wanted to say this. You look at, there's so much coming up, so much real estate in this country. And there's a lot of it that you cannot identify the owners. Because some of these proceeds, that is where they hide corrupt money. We've reached a point where we have more real estate than the demand. So I think there's too much money that is being stolen from us, and we need to find leaders that can protect our money, because that's where Kenya needs to go now.
Wakili, even as you reflect on what Honorable Mbui had to say, I think there's a question sent your way by Dr. Alfred Mutua, but also he said something interesting. He said corruption doesn't fight back, it buys back freedom, I guess. And I don't know what part lawyers and advocates like yourself play in that.
Thank you very much, Wahiga. The only disadvantage is that you brought 3 politicians against a prominent lawyer, but he's able to put across what is true. One, the role of the lawyer is to defend anybody, whether they're the Kenjakoma or anybody. The role of the lawyer is to test the evidence the state has against an accused person. The state means 54 million Kenyans are against that one accused person. That is why the charge sheet reads Republic versus Wahiga. Number 2, when we talk that Mheshimiwa said that judicial officers are corrupt, let me put it very clearly. I am the advocate for the Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association, defending all of them. There is nothing called that person is corrupt because you do not agree with him. If you have evidence, take that evidence, take that person to court, let the lawyers cross-examine. So a blanket condemnation of the judiciary, that the judiciary is corrupt. A blanket condemnation, the way I've seen here, of legislators, that in parliament there is corruption. Those are political talks. We as lawyers deal with facts and with evidence. Number 3, Waiga, yesterday, a magistrate in the David Koech matter has set up a second president. What is this president? We know by the law, these members of parliament have made that fine must be paid in full before somebody is released. Yesterday, the first time I saw a new type of jurisprudence coming from the magistrate's court is in the Babu Owino case, where cash bill was to be paid in installments. Yesterday, the magistrate allowed David Koech to go home and given time to pay
in 2 installments.
In 2 installments. That is the human nature that we are advocating as advocates and as everybody and the legislators have here, that you drive in Waiga today with your wife, with your car, then the judge says you are convicted. The bond terms are immediately cancelled. Your car is outside there, your child is in the car park, you go to industrial area prison. We need to have that jurisprudence developing. We saw it in South Africa. Zuma was told, you have up to this date to come and serve your term. The last issue I want to bring about is that the word corruption, 99% is perception. And that perception is normally weaved around politics. A lot of talks are there. So long as the executive, so long as the political heads of this country do not respect Article 232 of civil service. Waiga, show me any public servant who has gotten a position by virtue of his papers. None. Everybody is headhunted. Wiper will bring Omari and front him to be the DPP. Chap will bring Wahiga because and put that as the Speaker of the National Assembly. Jubilee, Chief Whip...
You're sure you're not just speaking perception, as you've accused
that's
us
what I'm
of
saying.
speaking perception.
All this, you ask the confidence rate, other than the judiciary, that people are recruited based on their papers. Leave that at the top, at the lower ranks. We are saying, and everybody is listening to us today, Waiga, the keyword to this nation on the question of corruption is, one, to separate civil service, public service, completely outside the political realm. The moment there's capture of public service, the moment we have a capture of state organs that investigate and police public accounts, Mheshimiwa Matangi has complained about the Auditor General's reports. Are they Auditor General reports as defined universally in the Black's Law Dictionary, or they are documents to massage egos, to threaten people, to raise queries purely for the purpose of making somebody do not to take a certain political position? My position is that the only way Kenyans we can resolve this question is to return the public service to where it was between 1963 up to when the public service was removed and made part of the political class.
I don't know if you responded to Dr. Mutua's question, but I can allow him to. He had asked about the Chief Justice.
Setting the rules.
The Chief Justice has powers to set rules. Those rules are called practice rules. The question is, will she set rules that contravene the constitutional right that one is presumed to be innocent till proved guilty. It is Wanjiku. Any rule the CJ makes must be in tandem with what Kenyans want. Two, to us and to everybody, Kenyans think that corruption is the worst case. Ask yourself, these cases started in 2016. They have been concluded here. Are you aware that there are cases of land in nature, murder in nature, commercial in nature that started in 2007? They have never been concluded. There's a lot of hype about corruption cases that they take low. Mheshimiwa talked about the chicken gate. The chicken gate case in the other side went faster under conviction because most of those cases were never defended. It was sort of, they pleaded guilty because of the evidence. Number two, when you look at the Akasha case that has been misreported every other time, that in Kenya here it lasted in courts for long. When it went to the US, it was simply they pleaded guilty. If today you walk Wahiga to court and you are charged and you plead guilty, in less than 3 minutes, you are sentenced.
I see.
So we need to agree. When people talk about the courts in Kenya dragging this matter, the ICC case of President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto stayed in the courts for how long? So it is not only in Kenya where cases drag.
It could be anywhere.
It is worldwide because
Fair
the
enough.
question of natural justice, due process, is so fundamental, and the Kenyan judiciary is not creating its own law. We follow the Commonwealth practice, and whether you go to India, you go to Australia,
I see.
you go to UK, the procedure is the same.
I'll ask you to pause there before you begin to defend your matter. Dr. Mutua, jump in. We want to wrap this up. Let me get some final thoughts from you before we switch gears.
Thank you very much. I want to respectfully disagree with Wakili, who is a very brilliant man.
Thank you.
Because I've lived in other countries. I've lived in the US, I've lived in Australia, I've lived in the UAE, and I've looked at how the court cases are carried out, even cases of murder, cases of of theft, and they tend to go faster than cases here. Let me give you a point. The gentleman who got killed the other day in the US, brought up the issue of Black Lives Matter, when somebody knelt
George Floyd.
When Floyd's case, when Floyd died, there was investigation and the whole judicial system kicked in. It took 10 months from the day he died to the conclusion of the case. 10 months. That is not abnormal in the US because the system is such that, the rules are such that when you start a case, you prosecute it through. If it's 4 weeks, it's 4 weeks through, or 6 weeks, without any break. Nobody says, kujeni in October, kujeni in the January, tuendelee kesi, ati lawyer jana alikula kuku mahali, tumbo imeharibika, haezi kuja leo, ati document ikuwe filed. Hapana, kesi inaisha. There's seriousness, because that is when you give proper justice. Because justice, what do you say, justice delayed is justice denied. So it is something that also, I see where you're getting it, even the land cases, we just need to, we can't go on forever with these cases. Now, the issue of corruption, and this is the issue of haves and have-nots. And I don't agree with this case that the haves are putting forth, that once you're convicted, you go back to your car and go back and sleep on your own bed. Kama ukishikwa Kenya na umeiba kuku, wewe ni mwizi wa kuku, na ulikuwa on bond, upelekwe mbele, judge atakwambia wenda nyumbani kwanza alafu kuja report after 2 weeks, unawekwa ndani. If you're a child rapist, they don't tell you you've been convicted as a child rapist, go home, make your matters well, kuja after 2 weeks, utalipa fine. Ama umefine. Hapana. So where is there a difference between the haves who play golf with some of these judicial officers and the person who is convicted? Mwizi ni mwizi. Kama umeiba kuku, umeiba mtoto, umeiba nini, wewe ni mwizi. Kama umeiba pesa ya serikali, wewe ni mwizi. You are convicted, you go to jail automatically. Because if they have to do that for the haves, they let them do that for the have-nots. Let's not be a culture of all these things. And finally, and this is something that we'll need to think about in the future. Some of these parastatal heads, and I'm not talking about this case, and some of these people who are accused of stealing, who are they stealing for? At times they are stealing for the people who got them those positions. We've had these cases. I've been in government for a long time. People are appointed and briefcases are taken every week, every weekend. When the board chairman, when the board CEO, ule alikuweka hapo anasema lete pesa, unampelekea briefcase kila weekend. You must still to take the briefcase, because the person who got you that job because you are from the same tribe or the same political persuasion, so that you can keep those oils going. And that's how these people amass this chest to be able to go around and bribe voters, etc., etc. Food for thought.
A lot to think about. Senator Omatangi,
yes.
Separate public service and the political arena. That's the solution.
Yeah.
Haves and have-nots, let there not be a difference. You're looking for solutions. Do any of those make sense for you?
I found that interesting from Wakili, you know, because I would want to agree with him to the extent that we need to free institutions that serve the people of this republic from capture, you know, by state in any manner, whichever institutions. That one we agree entirely. And what I would find requires an extensive and more liberal thought is on the question of, does it mean then that when you have an election and you have an administration in office, that having appointees of that administration to serve its agenda and manifesto and implement it, does it then mean that once you have those appointments that it's tantamount to bringing people who are unqualified? I would disagree, because if you recruit Omari today with all his knowledge as a lawyer, and he is either appointed by Wamatangi when I become president, that does not mean that you have lost all your knowledge and education. You will still be the same Omari. And it is the liberty and freedom of mind that you exercise once you sit in the office of the Solicitor General, if I made you one for that matter.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
You know, that's what I'm thinking, because I'm hearing how you're talking, and I think you could make a good one. But anyway, what I'm saying, Wahiga, is this, that you know, at the end of the day, it is the decisions we make as a person once in public office, you know, what you're going to do with the knowledge you have, the qualifications you have, and the exercise of what your responsibilities are. And I think, just as you said, in the legal thinking lot, that it is wrong to condemn wholly. I think the same would apply, that you can't condemn everyone who is appointed via the system of administration putting its own people in place just because they're political appointees. I think at the end of the day, we have suffered as a country and failed to make progress because, one, we have been corrupted, and that is the big word. We have been corrupted either economically, we have been corrupted in mind, and we have had this culture inculcated in our minds that it is when I become a big boy or a big man, that is when you're going to find your freedom and you're going to find your wit and be able to progress. So you have to hang on with me and make sure that you push me through, whether in good or bad. And I think that's what has done as ills that seem to only suggest that everybody here is a have-not anyway. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a discussion that we are coming to, because I see we have the political discussion that's coming up. I would want to save my thoughts on that one, because I think I have something to say about it.
There's something you have to add on that.
Yes.
Honorable Mbui, as we wrap up this discussion, there's a viewer here saying, can you ask, and maybe Wakili will respond to this when we come back from the break,
yes,
why lawyers were protesting a law that required them to be part of reporting agency in money laundering. Talk to me about lawmaking in Parliament. Are you satisfied? Has enough been done on the Parliament side, and now it's up to the Judiciary, the DPP, and everybody else?
Well, I think what we need to do as a country, because, and I've just thought about it now, maybe we need to check what other countries do, the best practices. Unfortunately, Kenya's problem is greed. A lot of our leaders are really greedy. It's not like Kenya is a poor country. This issue of haves and have-nots really would be sorted out if people in political office and high offices were to stop the wanton theft that we are having in this country. I think we need to look at best practices, look at what other countries, what laws other countries have, where the countries that the political leaders are fairly clean, so that we can emulate and see how to sort it out. I hope someone doesn't send a delegation of 1,000 members of parliament and then with all their relatives and make the problem even worse. But allow me to also talk about the issue of political appointees, because I mean, I think it's important that we all understand that the country is run through politics, because the leader of the nation is the president. I want to just point out a case in point. Right now, you can see the kind of problems we are facing between the president and his deputy. So you can imagine if you're a president, and then the people you appoint operate like the way the deputy president is treating his boss, because they don't pay allegiance, because you didn't appoint them. So you find a government that has ministers and that has senior government officials that are not aligned to you, because, as he said, maybe we separate the political class from the civil service. So you can imagine how would you be able to run a country if every leader within the system is not appointed by you and is behaving like the way the deputy president is behaving towards his boss. I mean, it would be impossible. But don't you say
that in the corporate world it's competitive recruitment and you don't hear complaints about that? I'm not sure I buy into that argument.
Now, let me put it this way. Well, the thing is, even when political leaders make political appointments, they also look for the best. They don't pick the worst to give offices. You become president, you want to get the best people to be PS. You want to get the best people to be ministers, because you also want to deliver on the promises that you make to the people. So clearly, the real issue is that if you're going to find people that feel that they own those offices and have no allegiance towards you, it would be difficult to run the nation. So I think it's important that we note that some of these appointees have to be aligned to the president. Even in the constituencies. In 2013, when I was first elected, we were told to do elections for members and a chair of CDF. Now, some of the people who won those elections were the people that were opposing us. So you can imagine someone who was the opponent in an election becomes chairman of CDF. And you want maybe your agenda is education, improve on education. And every time you give a proposal, they shut it down because they're running the office. It would mean that they would sabotage you, so that within 5 years you do nothing of the things you said you want to do, so that you lose the next election. So it's clearly we need people that are aligned to you in political office. And unless we say now, let us run the country like a corporate, that means even the president has to be the most highly qualified Kenyan, which is really not the case. It is a person who can get the most votes that becomes the president of the republic.
You're taking us down an interesting road, and we do need to... Yeah, I'm sure they all have contributions, but let's pause right there. These are some of the thoughts as we take that break. Dismas Mokua says this morning, Kenya is among few countries in the world where you have billionaires and millionaires who don't harness the factors of production. Is it not surprising that most billionaires in this country are public servants of rank and politicians? In other countries, their billionaires are in the private sector. We'll read a lot of your feedback on the other side of this break. 22422 is the SMS line. Hashtag is Daybreak. Stay with us. When we come back, the state of our politics. Catholic bishops yesterday told the country, and they're telling the political class, do not change the election date. And remember, the Anglican Church over the weekend banned politicians on stage. Is it a clash of the church and politicians? We'll talk about that on the other side. You're watching Daybreak. Stay with us. We'll be right back.